Welcome everybody to the next Talk of the Town, our live stream event. Some of you may be wondering, wait, it's not 9 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday. It's 6 o'clock in the evening on a Wednesday. The last Wednesday of the month, we're doing Talk of the Town. Instead of coffee with a mayor, you're not drinking coffee.
Nope, I've got a Coca-Cola in there.
It's Coca-Cola with the mayor this evening. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us here. It's the end of July, and I don't know. I mean,
yeah, Josh. I
don't feel like we have anything to talk about.
Yeah, nothing's happened in the last month. No. I mean, it's been just smooth, easy going. Yeah. Summertime, everything else,
No,
but no, with all seriousness, we had as everybody knows, a storm event. I call it a storm event.
What?
A nice little hurricane named Beryl.
What?
And she was like supposed to be quiet and a little Cat 1 and all that.
South of us.
And wow, she came through and decided to pack a punch. And and so here we are, dealing with the after effects of it and all that kind of stuff. Want to make light of a very serious subject.
It was very serious.
And living on the Gulf Coast, it's not a matter of if, it's when.
Right.
A storm event comes in, and we've had one early in the storm season. Here we are, right after July 4th and early July, and we've had one come through. And so, let's talk.
That's one of the things that was fascinating about this is, it's a small Ike-like event, but you got to remember Ike was in October.
Ike was in September.
September, and usually.
Yeah.
The heavy storms that hit us like that are at the end of the hurricane season.
Right.
So that's one of the concerning things. I remember when we started talking about Beryl, we were watching that the southerly track that went below us, and the Emergency Operations Center, the IMT, Incident Management Team, intended to spool up, just to stretch our legs for the hurricane season to get ready. It's a good thing we did, and it's a good thing we responded with the resources we did. But it wasn't until that track firmed up that we realized, it's.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk a little bit about coming out of July 4th. We're going into that weekend. Beryl decides. We keep seeing the track move from south of Brownsville, south of Brownsville to Brownsville, and it's moving up the coast. It's going across, the Yucatan Peninsula and all of those kind of things, and we're watching it. To your point, for the folks that are out there, when we have an event in the Gulf or it's approaching the Gulf, or certainly one like Beryl that became a Cat 4, Cat 5 out in the Atlantic, which I don't think has ever been done.
No.
And, we take those very seriously, and we watch those. We watch all the daily briefings. We're understanding how these storms are going to move into our area if they are. And so really and truly, we did all of our what we call blue skies preparation, going into that weekend, meaning all of our facilities are ready, all of our fuel tanks are generators topped off, everything's topped off. We've got skids and gas and fuel that have already been brought in. So we're ready in the event that a storm is coming.
Well, and before any event, there's always an incident management team identified. So we follow the FEMA incident command system structure. So you have an incident commander, and then you have section chiefs for logistics, planning, finance, a couple other things, a public information officer, which usually falls to my group, and a safety officer. And then your elected officials, and the mayor specifically, are the policy group incident commander or emergency leader in that situation. We start meeting typically 4 to 5 days before an event hits, our area, or when we know there's an event that has the potential to hit our area. In this situation, we met, on the 4th of July, on the 5th of July, on the 6th of July. Reported to Sunday was the 7th. I think.
Sunday was the 7th because it hit on the 8th.
Yeah, that's right. We reported to the Emergency Operations Center at 10 a.m. on the 7th, and then we were there until 6 p.m. on the 8th. And we maintained 24-hour coverage until the evening of the 9th or 10th. I don't remember.
Like that.
It all kind of blurs together. It was a long couple of days.
Yeah.
But
I say all that because there's a lot of preparation before, there's a lot of preparation and work during. We've got to get crews out and about. And so, you know, we had to, at some point on Sunday, we had to make the call, are we going to open the city or not?
Yep.
On Monday. That means everything for our employees as well as people who are doing business with the city or coming in and transacting and doing things. Our courts.
The council meeting? We had
The
a council meeting
meeting
planned
that evening that we had to cancel. We had people, you know, coming to that had things on the agenda, and so we have to, you know, properly notify them so they can. And at that time when we made the call, it was still going south of us.
Yep.
But it was certainly moving. And so we finally made the decision, let's call it, because we have to give our employees enough time to take care of their home,
Yep.
take care of their family, because those emergency employees are going to be going into either the Emergency Operations Center, or they're going into over at
Orange Street.
Fire Admin or
Fire
the Orange
Admin,
Street Public Works building over there, so they can hunker down, wait for the storm to come through, and then they're ready to, you know, kind of rock and roll with what they do.
Yep.
As soon as the storm has passed. And so you really don't know on Sunday where this is going, but as the Sunday progressed, it kept moving and kept moving, and as we all know, it you know, landed right here around Sargent in Matagorda County. Really just a small portion of Matagorda County came right into Brazoria County. And the fact is, our western edge of our city was probably 4 miles from the eye wall, the eastern eye wall, which is the dirtiest of the dirty of the storm. It was
Yep.
right in through there. And so we truly got the dirty side of the storm.
Yep.
The storm itself stayed very intact as it moved inland and kept moving up and next to us. We do have some reports that we received as high as 102 mile per hour gusts of wind. So it's no wonder we do have some of the tree debris and what we have, even with a Cat 1.
Yep.
Fortunately for our city, while we did receive 13 inches of rain in about an 8 or 9 hour period,
Which is a shocking amount of rain in a very short period
which
of
is
time.
a very, you know, very intense rain, which comes with these.
Right.
A lot of times a Cat 1 will bring just a lot of wind and blow in,
Yep.
not a lot of rain. This
Yep.
one packed a lot of rain with
Yep.
it. And so fortunately with that, we don't have any reports of structure flooding, which is good, which is very good for our community. Same thing with businesses as well as homes. Mainly just a lot of wind damage, fences, trees. On the business side, signage has taken a hit. And so now the time is we've been spending the last several weeks, obviously immediately afterwards, dealing with CenterPoint and getting power restored.
Yep.
And
That was the first priority.
and those types of things, a very high priority. At the same time, we're making sure that all of our functions, while we don't have electricity, that we're able to supply water and as well as wastewater, you know, if you flush your toilet. And
Which
so
we did. We maintained those systems.
maintain
through
those.
The whole thing.
Yeah, had to maintain those all the way throughout. I will you know, just say to our public, I mean, those things are touch and go. You have a lot of backup power that's working. Some of that backup power could go down at a moment's notice, and that is frightening when you're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going days on end, just like we did, and trying to get power, you know, restored. We actually had a small fire at one of our wastewater treatment facilities in the midst of it. And so we remained on backup power. It caught on fire when we went to line power, so we had to cut that back off and stay on backup power until we could get in, do some emergency repairs, and then go back on line power. So those things happen in the midst of this storm activity.
Right.
At the same time, trying to put a city back together, get lights back working, get traffic signals back working,
Yep.
get all of those
Get
kind of things up
debris
and going.
removal set up.
Right.
Right. So there's a lot of moving pieces.
Right.
The recovery piece is by far the longest and
Yeah.
and maybe some of the most trying, because the storm, you know, it's going to hit, and that it just kind of is what it is. But you never really know what the outcome is going to be and what the recovery process is going to look like. We have plans in place for that,
Right.
and we activate on those as quickly as possible.
Every storm has its own footprint
Right.
and fingerprints.
Right. No two are alike.
No two are alike. They have similarities,
Yep.
but no two storms are alike. So you can't say, well, it happened here, so therefore it's going to happen in this one. You have to throw all of that out. There are tendencies and there's things to be ready for. So when it comes to storm, obviously there's a debris field, and we've got to pick all that up, and we have to get it. So let's talk a little bit about storm debris and when, where, and how as things move. That's probably the biggest question that people have right now is storm debris. Obviously, the first week after the storm, it was about power and how do we get power back. And I do want to say the people who reached out, thank you for giving us the opportunity to help you highlight, where and when we needed to get power back for homes and businesses. It was literally from 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning till about 9 or 10 o'clock at night, on the phone working with CenterPoint, trying to get, highlight certain places, and we saw that power restored, and they had a tremendous amount of outage, and we can talk about that a little bit, and CenterPoint's got to deal with that ultimately.
And not to shirk responsibility,
right.
but just for clarification's sake, the city doesn't have any control over the power. We do have partners with CenterPoint,
right.
So the governmental affairs partners that we work with, that we reach out to and try to plead our cases for restoring power. We do what we can to help in those situations.
I am proud that our governmental affairs gentleman with CenterPoint, when it was all said and done, he did say that he heard from me and one of our council members the most out of all the elected officials.
I am not surprised by that.
in the Houston area.
I've seen your text back and forth. I can vouch for that.
So it's real. But we moved to debris. So the storm came through on Monday the 8th. We had crews up and out as soon as it was safe to have people out and about. Yeah, obviously, it was still raining.
We were out there at noon, 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
Monday
we were
morning,
looking
or
around.
Monday afternoon,
looking around, and so we had crews looking to see, do we need to activate? What's the debris look like? Do we need to activate our contract? So when we go to debris, we have multiple contracts. One, we have our everyday contract for waste with Frontier. That's your normal. You have your bin, you have your recycle bin, and you have the bulk pickup that they handle.
2 main buckets. You have residential and commercial.
Residential, right. So you've got that in play, and then you have, because we're probably going to be in a disaster area, and again, I say probably, because the president didn't sign the disaster declaration until sometime on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. It was late Tuesday afternoon that we got that. But going into the storm, I signed a declaration on Saturday. Saturday. The county judge signed one, I think, on Saturday, if not early Sunday. The governor signed one sometime around Saturday. So we were all lining up to do that. We were waiting on the president to sign his, because ultimately FEMA, federal government, will pay for a lot of this pickup. That's you and I. That's our tax money at the federal level coming back here to help pay, for some of this cleanup and some of the storm. And so things have to be done right. So we have a contract in place. We put these contracts in place prior to the storm season. So just as
about 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago,
we did it about a month before the storm, so it was right at the beginning of June. So we have a primary waste removal, debris pickup, and then we have a backup. Mm-hmm. What if they can't perform? Yep. Then we have a backup. We don't want to be, caught. And then we have a monitoring company. And that has to be monitored. So all of these contracts, because it's FEMA contracts, and I'll say this, no one, me included, likes waste, fraud, and abuse at the federal level. And so we want to make sure that these contracts are monitored, that what we're paying for is exactly what we're paying for. Yep. And so it takes a little bit to get those in place and up and going.
Be clear, we only pay for those contracts if we activate them. So right. We approve them at the beginning or before the hurricane season starts.
Yep.
But they only have a financial impact if we activate them. And what the mayor's talking about with FEMA are potential reimbursements for leveraging those contracts in a declared emergency situation.
Yeah, a lot of words means a lot of things, but right. it's technical in nature, but it's important, so yep. we understand. Because yep. our primary contract is a $2 million contract, so that's $2 million that you and I as a city have to front.
Yep.
And then we get reimbursed 75% of that. 25% of it is our cost. So we will be paying 25% of the cost of this. So we moved forward with that. We made the decision on Monday, let's activate. They have to take several days to assess when and where the majority of the damage is. Obviously, That's important because that's going to direct where your debris field is going to be set up. There's not a lot of construction and demolition debris initially, simply because it's too early. People haven't, done things with their homes or their fences and that type of stuff. Tree debris is easy to see because it's everywhere. So they were able to, make an assessment of the city over several days. They have to pick a debris field. We give them 4, 5, 6 sites to go and look which is best. They want to find a site that's somewhat central located. The one we have is not exactly in the center of the city, but it's more in the center of the majority of the debris.
Right, and it checks a lot of the other boxes too.
Right, and so there's a lot of boxes to be checked, and that site has to be approved by the state. So TCEQ has to come in and do that. So that got approved about 2 weeks ago today, maybe on Tuesday, and I think 2 weeks ago today we started debris pickup. And so you'll see online as we're talking here, this is what one of the big, massive trucks looks like. These things have really, the technology in these things have changed over the years. We have a debris site next to the rec center there on Bailey Road, and they started picking up in earnest as they go through this. At the same time, we have a dashboard for everyone to look at, and the company itself, Ceres is the name of the company. They have to assess the city. We set up 5 different zones around the city, and this is their plan of attack to go in and make sure that we get everything picked up. And so you can see the dashboard here, and I will say,
and this is available on the website.
Correct.
So pearlandtx.gov/storm-recovery.
Yep.
We'll take you to this content. You just click on the link on that page, and you can see this is an interactive dashboard. And each of those dots represents an area where they've already picked up debris.
Correct.
So you can zoom in and try to get in. Now, I will say this information is updated twice a day.
Right.
So there might be some delay in it, but it'll give you an idea of everything that's been picked up.
So you can see here, you can pull on it, and like I said, each one of these places where debris has been picked up, there is somebody monitoring. So we've actually had some complaints where people say, well, I see the guy working in the truck. What about these 2 guys in this car? They're just sitting there.
Right.
They're not doing anything to help him. Well, they're actually part of the monitoring contract to monitor everything that goes on. Because at the end of this, we have to prove to FEMA that all of this is legitimate expense.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So there's pictures, there's tickets that are written up as to what was picked up and those types of things. So all of it is cataloged.
All that's required for federal reimbursement.
All of that is required for federal reimbursement. So if we're audited, we have to show all that.
So that 74.4 thousand, I just learned this coming in here. Can you quantify, do you know, they just gave me a comparable so we could understand.
Oh, you're gonna challenge my math skills.
Yeah.
Here in public. Here we go. So that's 74,000 cubic yards.
Cubic yards.
So
that's enough. The average size Costco.
Okay.
You could fill half of a Costco, floor to ceiling. That's 74,500 yards.
Right. Right.
Or you could fill a whole Costco 12 feet high with that much debris.
So you can see from the from the dashboard, so they're working all areas of town at once.
Yep.
And within each zone, if you really drill into it, they're working from the outsides in.
Yeah, you can see their patterns.
You can see their pattern. If you go to Shadow Creek, for example, you see they're working from the outside in. Probably per household less debris than some of the mature neighborhoods on the east end with some of the just huge trees.
Yep.
You can go over to the Shady Crest area on the east end of town, and it took them probably 8 days in one small neighborhood simply because of the debris field.
Right.
And so
you drive down some of the streets in Shady Crest.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of debris.
Yeah.
Out there.
So they concentrated on some of these really hard hit large debris field early. They are picking up steam. Joe, go back to the dashboard real quick, and let's talk about as we see the cubic yards per day across the bottom. You'll see it was kind of rising a little bit and flatlined, and then it went way down on July the 26th. A lot of that, we had a massive rain event last week. The debris site over by the rec center, it just became where the trucks couldn't get in and out, and they needed to shore up the entry
Rebuild the roads,
and going into the site and back out. And then additionally, in those days, you saw the video, the big boom on the truck. We had quite a bit of lightning that day. So clearly, we wouldn't want crews out in the middle of a lightning event. And for safety reasons, if there's a lightning strike, they have to sit for 30 minutes.
Yep.
And then if they have another one, it's another 30 minutes after that. If there's another one, it's 30 minutes after that.
Yeah, we want them to be safe because they have a...
So that day, we basically called off debris picked up for the day. Let's get the rain over. And you can see that it's picked back up since the rain is over. Say all that to say this. We are estimating that there was about 110 cubic yards of tree debris. That's what series window, windshield looking, about 110 cubic yards of debris to pick up. So we are roughly about 74% or 73% into that, which is very good. And we're 2 weeks into actual pickup. So 2 weeks we picked up about 74%. And again, I want to be very, very clear. That's what's estimated.
Right.
They can't see if there's more in the backyard that needs to be pulled up and those types of things, which is why they'll do multiple pass-throughs. So we anticipate the first complete pass-through of the whole city in about 2 more weeks. So give it, the rest of this week, following week, and then early that following week, and it will be completing the first pass-through. And I would have bet that 85 or so percent of what needs to be picked up from a tree debris will be picked up. It gives you the opportunity once it's gone, if you need to pull more out, that's fine, do so. We will make multiple passes through. That is part of what their contract is for. But I will say this, there is a point in time in the future where we will say no more passes. We have to get this done in approximately 60 days. And so there's a point in time where we can't do any more. So we'll make kind of the last call, if you will. You got to get your debris out. We'll get it picked up. After that, it's going to be on the homeowner to do. And I mentioned homeowner. So with that, the crews that are in town picking up are only picking up from homes.
Residential.
FEMA will not reimburse and will not pay for business debris. And so this is for homeowners only. And so as a result of that, I know our own contract with Frontier Waste calls for roll-offs and those types of things have to be rented through them. So the first 2 weeks after the storm, Frontier waived that as a contract requirement. So other companies could come in with roll-offs and help businesses recover. At the same time, what we mainly saw from businesses were a few, awning type things and signage and those types of things. We have, for our business community, we waived some of our requirements on signage, so we can allow them temporary signs. So we've taken that action in our last council meeting, so we can get them up and running for signage. We know it's going to take time to get their new signs ordered and in place and those types of things. And so at the end of the day, stay with us, stay patient. It just takes a while to get all of this stuff picked up. I hate to say that. I wish I could tell you it's going to be there on Friday and it's all going to be picked up. We don't know exact dates that people will be picked up. I will tell you I was on council in 2008 when Ike came through. And with Ike, it took every bit of 60 days to get everything picked up. It was a long, hard process. The tree debris was even more than what you see now, and our city was smaller as far as number of homes and those types of things. It was quite a bit, and we had more C&D, construction and demolition, then than we do now. And that's another thing. If you're looking at the dashboard, you'll see some orange dots on there. That is where they've already started picking up construction and demolition debris. The other good news is tomorrow, August the 1st, we'll turn the door and open August and walk through. We'll make a determination with Ceres if some additional trucks can be deployed with their resources and bringing in. So we're hoping if we can bring in some more trucks, then that'll actually speed up the process a little bit more.
Okay, so we got a couple questions just from commenters out there. So first one, should we take debris out of the black plastic trash bags and put it on the curb to be picked up? it says our other tree debris was picked up last week.
So the grapple that actually picks up your tree debris has a very difficult time. Number one, picking up the black bag.
Yeah, right.
Number two, there has to be a visual that it's actually tree debris, which in a black bag they can't.
Yep.
And then thirdly, this all, once it gets to the debris site, is mulched. And obviously all of this mixed together, they don't want to contaminate the mulch with the black bags, with the plastic. So yeah, I mean, I would recommend, if you've got it in black bags, to open it and leave it on the curb without being in the black bag.
Yep.
But we are working with Frontier. We haven't announced this because we haven't finalized it yet, but we are working with Frontier about supplementing their contract on some of the bulk pickup, which would be some of those black bags, to help get those picked up sooner. Let's talk about Frontier and their bulk pickup.
Yep.
At the end of the day, I'm going to give you a graphic here. Just imagine, if you will, if every single refrigerator in the Houston metro region got emptied.
Right.
Because of the storm and because the power was out.
Yeah.
And all of that is having to go to the curb. All of that's going in bins. All of that's going in the collective cities around, being picked up and going to landfills. So that is the sheer volume increase in the amount of waste that went to the curb.
Right. Yep.
And Frontier saw the same thing. So big increase in the carts itself were full, as opposed to maybe 20, 25, or 50% full, all the way full.
Yep.
So more and more each and every day. So it was challenging their trucks to get all the way through. And then on their bulk pickup, they've been spotty, and I'll say that, they've been spotty, and they've been doing that so they can actually get completely through their route on their bulk pickup.
Because they're filling up the trucks faster.
Yeah, so if you've got 15 bags sitting out on the curb, they might pick up 5.
Right.
And that's the reason they're doing that, so they can complete and get to others without filling it up. So again, it's a long, arduous process. Yep. But at the grand scheme of things, it'll be over. We'll move on and be able to put our city back together. Other than that, I mean, we're fortunate. We haven't had any reported flooding events or anything like that. So a handful of roofs. I've got roof damage at my house. Had the adjuster out, just the other day, and going through that process myself. Yep. So my tree debris is sitting on my curb, just like everybody else in my neighborhood.
You're one of the last people, one of the later people to get power.
I'll be one of those, and that's just part of it, and that's just, we work it, and I'm no different than anyone else. We just work it, and we'll be there, and my grass will grow back, and it'll be fine.
It's St. Augustine. It'll grow through anything.
It'll be fine.
We've got a couple questions about fencing. Broken fence debris, is it going to be picked up?
Yes.
So I would consider that construction and demolition material.
That's part of C&D.
Keep it separate from your vegetative debris. One of the things that I loved about when the contractor came into, when Sirius came to the council meeting, he kept calling it veg. Like you hear the chef say, like, well, we'll pick up the veg, and it made me giggle every time. But keep your fence debris separate from your vegetative debris. Right. And like the mayor said, you'll see them you'll see those numbers start to change in the dashboard. Right. Because they'll turn their attention to that. So they're more focused on vegetative debris.
And that is starting to be picked up, and we expect more trucks to be added to that part of it as well. And real quick, so from the estimates of C&D, construction and demolition debris, we had about 110,000 cubic yards estimated of vegetative debris. We only had about 10,000 cubic yards of C&D. So large, completely different scale. But nonetheless, a fence, especially a whole fence, stacked out on the front lawn, that's a sight. Yeah. And so be patient. They will be through to pick it up. And all will get back together.
Nat wanted to say she was sorry to hear about your roof, so very nice for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
There was another one, and I think Cameron answered it for us. Thank you, Cameron. Will they do another pass through? So they are going to do multiple passes through the community. with the goal being that, not everything makes it out the first time, and there's a lot. So we want to make sure that nothing gets missed.
Well, and I want to, and even on that, we made the decision even on starting that with debris because we wanted people to have plenty of time to get it out. We want the first pass to be, by and large, the vast majority of it, right?
Pass 2 and Pass 3 should be much faster.
And much quicker. And so we, that weekend, so we came through on a Monday, and then we wanted people to have time on that weekend to take care of their house, take care of their trees, take care of what they needed, and get it out. And then we started. And so it really gave us the idea, and it gave us a better look of what was on the curb.
Yep. Right. We did have another question earlier in the comments. That was, so is there a city landfill that we can take our fence or branch debris to, since there's not a timeline on when Frontier, this question specifically, they were asking if Frontier would be picking up. So that's, first thing is no, it's not Frontier, Ceres. Second is, there's not a city subsidized landfill. There are landfills you can take it to, but at the expense of the homeowner.
Right, correct. Yeah, we don't have a city-owned landfill, and we don't have a city site to be able to take those to. If we did, that site would have to be approved through the state.
Yep.
So with the limited amount versus the vegetative side that we had, the decision was made, we'll come through and get it picked up.
Another question, fence debris in gated communities, is that going to be picked up?
Yes, it'll be picked up as well. So gated communities, a great question. The gated communities have to give us an approval or a right of entry. I do know those are going out to the management companies. I live in a small gated community, and I reached out to our HOA this week or today, and they actually signed that right of entry yesterday as an example. So make sure if you live in a gated community, reach out to someone in your management company, ask if they have received that right of entry form. If they haven't, Josh, I'll just tell them, reach out to me. We'll make sure that it gets to the right person. Because sometimes management companies change, that contact information changes from what we have, and if it bounces back, we're trying to figure out who and how to get that done. So
it looks like we're still waiting on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think 7 neighborhoods haven't signed that, or they're pending that agreement. So it's not that they haven't signed, but
so we have 18 gated communities,
and 11 have already signed.
Right.
And obviously nobody's opposed it, so that's good. Right. But yes, great question, Beverly, for that. Yeah. Question about permits: is one required to replace a small portion of the fence?
Ooh. Small portion, like a section.
Yeah, that's
so. Generally speaking, if it's $300 or more, then a permit is required. If it's less than $300, it's not required in the city.
And better safe than sorry. You can always call community development, and there's a permit technician that can help.
But we have
that information.
We have waived permit fees.
Correct.
For fences.
Yep.
That way, because we know that's something people need to deal with and get done. But having them on file, and don't forget, even if you're HOA, if you're in an HOA, they may fast track what you need to do, but you still need to report the fact that if fences are required and certain things around fences are required, make sure you cover that base as well.
Yep, and there are actually there's a residential portal where you can see which permits you need. And I'm going to send this to Joe so he can plug it into the comments. And it might be a helpful tool for you. Worst case scenario, you can always call community development, and they should be able to help you with that information as well.
Yep.
Okay, let's hop back over to our chat. I think
When do we want to do our video questions?
Yeah, so I think we've pretty well exhausted a lot of the debris pickup content.
So that just the overall general thing about debris. We're 2 weeks in.
Yep, got a little bit more to go.
We think in about 2 more weeks we will have our first pass completed on the vegetation side of things. We will certainly assess tomorrow on whether or not we'll have some additional trucks, coming in.
Yep.
And honestly, if it looks we're close to 90% after 2 more weeks, then that's relatively quick. I know it doesn't feel quick.
Sure.
But these processes take a while. I was talking to somebody in Green Tea subdivision earlier today, and they said, you know, the truck might hit 2 to 4 homes and then have to go be emptied because the pile is so big. And so if you just think about that and how slow that is, it just takes a while.
Sure.
And another quick stat, I love stats, you can tell, I just love stats. These trucks that you see, most all of them are not from the Houston area.
Sure.
Ceres, the company that we're using, is based in Houston, but the trucks and the contractors are all independent contractors, and they come in from all over the country.
And you know what they look like. I mean, they're the big, massive, they have a trailer.
You can't mistake them, right?
Yeah.
You can't mistake them. And those trucks, there's 70% of those types of vehicles, those types of trucks in the nation are in the greater Houston area right now.
Yep.
70% of them. So the assets are deployed here. It's just a matter of the whole area is having to go through this.
There's a ton of demand all the way around.
That's
We're not. The good news, I guess, if there's a silver lining, is we're not alone.
No, we're not.
I mean,
we're not.
I don't know
And as other
everybody peace
smaller
of mind.
communities might get wrapped up quicker, those assets, if they're with the same company, can be deployed in larger communities. And like it or not, we've grown to be a larger city, and it just takes a while to get these things picked up.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did ask some people some questions for a little promo that we did. So we're going to play a video question, and then we can...
Are we going to cut between each one and answer the question?
Yeah, I think so, right? Yeah. All right, so let's play the first one, Joe, and see what people want to know about.
Why is there no volleyball court in the Independence Park or any park?
What kind of volleyball court?
Like a sand volleyball court.
I don't know. I'm going to ask the mayor. Okay, so why not?
Sand volleyball. Sand volleyball. So actually,
who doesn't like that scene from Top Gun where, you know?
Well,
like,
yeah. I mean, why not?
Get out there.
Just real quick, so she's specifically talking about Independence Park.
Yep.
We do have a sand volleyball court at the sports park in Shadow Creek.
Yep.
We also have a small one in the Southdown Park.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, we do have one there.
About that one.
And so I was actually talking Parks Director, and you know, we had a bond program for Phase 2 of Independence Park passed a year ago. And so one of the things I've asked for is to make sure that stakeholders are at the table and what all do we want to see in that park. And so I talked to her, and it would be very nice to maybe look at maybe programming some sand volleyball in that Phase 2 as we're designing that and putting that on the table. I did ask, the one in Shadow Creek is heavily used. It's used all the time. Not as much in the Southdown Park. So certainly it'd be something worth looking at. That'd be the best option in the short term, is in that bond program, add that as a feature.
Okay, yeah. And I will tell you too, I mean, if you look at our parks now, so Independence Park, if you knew it before the renovation, it was a bit of a hodgepodge of different types of things. And the primary focal point in that first renovation was making it a very intentional event type venue, right?
Yeah.
The big berm and the big stage and all those things. I mean, if you come out to Celebration of Freedom, we have more people there than we've ever had in the history of Pearland, because that space can support all of that now. Same thing with Shadow Creek. It's designed to be a sports complex, but certainly adding additional features with the expansion of that park, which is a very exciting project.
Right.
I'm really excited about that. So stay tuned for that.
Next question.
Next.
Problema más grande que yo encuentro es lo tardío que han recogido, que están recogiendo, y tú apareces más en los parques.
Okay, so debris removal in the parks specifically.
Yeah, and it's a great question. So our parks are actually maintained by our parks crews. So clearly, when we go through, you know, something like this, all of our crews are pressed into action all over the city. And so, you know, Independence or all of our different parks had tree debris. They had other types of debris and damage. At Independence Park alone, we had the tennis courts, the fences came down, for example. So all that has to be dealt with. So the different crews at the different parks actually came together to work with each other in their own crews to go and help. Some of our parks had awnings down that had to be removed. So we focused on safety issues first, moving to, you know, tree issues and those types of things, and then, you know, working to get those cleaned up. So it's just takes a bit, and we have to pick up, I believe, all of that debris ourselves,
Right.
that the city, as opposed to the contractor picking
Yeah, so
it up.
series is focused on
Residential.
debris specifically. So all the parks work were done by our own crew, and I want to say thanks to them because, man, that is no small feat.
Right.
They were working hard out there for
Right.
sure. Thank you. All right, next question.
When are they going to clean up the dog park in Independence Park and mow the grass?
Okay, so when are we going to clean up the grass in the dog park at Independence Park?
So one, as far as the schedule is concerned, I believe all of Independence Park was mowed yesterday.
I think you're right.
And so I just want to remind people that, again, crews that do that were focused on safety issues and some other types of cleanup and type of debris removal early on. And then last week, none of the mowing schedules were on time because of all the rain.
Yep.
That certainly impacted everything that we did, but I do believe both the park and the dog park were mowed yesterday. And they should be getting back to their normal routine.
Yeah, so normally speaking, there are dedicated parks maintenance crews for each and every park.
Right.
So Independence, the park and the dog park get mowed every week in the summertime. And they try to mow it towards the end of the week so that it's pristine for the weekend and
Right.
all of that foot traffic. So not a, it's a weekly schedule, just happens sometime during the week.
Right.
All right, question 4.
As advanced as we are today, we have a lot. I know that natural things, we have a lot of problem with outages,
Yeah, power outages.
power outages, and I just think that we should be a little bit more caught up with trying not to have so many outages.
All right.
So,
I think we talked a little bit about CenterPoint and their responsibilities. I don't want to just hang it all right there. I think the entire electrical grid, whether it's CenterPoint or the whole state, is an issue. We saw that in the ice storm here 3 years ago, and the vulnerability that it is to storm activity, whether it's super cold or super hot, the demand on it. So there's a lot of questions that I've had where our state's going to continue to grow. How are we going to grow the grid? How are we going to grow and be resilient, be redundant, and those types of things. Here locally, you'll notice even the outage tracker at best from CenterPoint, showed that the western end of our city had a lot more power back sooner, and a lot of that it's because it's newer, it's more underground. You move to the older neighborhoods on the eastern end of town, and you'll see above ground and the poles in the backyards, trees intertwined and those types of things. And so one of our comments to CenterPoint is, making sure that they're coming in and doing right-of-way management properly, and keeping those lines clear, keeping the poles themselves clear. We actually have some meetings being set up as after action with CenterPoint here in the coming weeks as they're talking to everyone in the area. Obviously, they're being grilled, if you will, from at the state level. But they're committed to having conversations with us. Even our own priorities here at the city that we have them focused on: water, wastewater, those types of things, hospitals, nursing homes. We want to make sure that they're focused on those in each and every storm that comes along. But I think the cost to go completely underground is super expensive.
Yeah.
It's super expensive. But I think some going underground and some better vegetation, they are replacing a lot of the poles, the creosote poles with a it's not an acrylic pole, it's a fiberglass pole. So it's stronger. And again, I'll tell you what I've been told, that a creosote pole at best has a life of like 20 or 25 years, and these new poles have a life of 80.
Oh,
now,
wow. Yeah. I mean,
I won't be here in 80 years to know if they work or not, but that's what they're saying. So they're a lot more resilient, less snapping, and those types of things under pressure. And so you know, I think if they are serious about upgrading their system, those are some things that they will take seriously and will do.
Yeah.
And only time will tell. I do know that they have a bond of some $2.5 billion with a B to harden. That's their word, harden. You know, their infrastructure.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it's going to take them to deploy that. It'll take them several years
Sure.
to do that. But one can only hope that we can wake up one day and have a Cat 1 come through and not have 2.3 million homes go out of power.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Great question, though.
That is a really good question, and one that certainly you know, we'd love to talk about here, and the mayor's been really involved in. All right, our last video question, I think, is next.
Will taxes go up over the next couple of years, and also is there any new developments, either commercial or residential?
So that question was about our taxes going up.
It's a great question. Great question. So actually, we are next week. Staff and our city manager will deliver this upcoming budget. Our budgets run from October 1 to September 30th. So our October 1 budget coming up. So our budget season, we are entering that as we speak. So we will have those delivered to us this next week. All of staff is crunching, and we got all of our appraisal district numbers early this week, which was good. We got all that. We now have to calculate all the different tax calculation worksheets, and all of that's been going on, and they finalized the budget this week and early next week. That'll be coming out to us. So having said that, we know values across the city are up on average across the city somewhere in the 8% range, 8.5%. Some are maybe higher, some lower,
Sure.
all those kind of things, but somewhere across the city around 8.5%. And so what we've asked our, let me just kind of explain our budget process. Our taxes going up over the next few years, I can't give you a picture over
Right.
coming years. I do know we have voter approved projects.
Yep.
That we are going to continue to push forward. We did tell people there were going to be some 2 cents or so on the tax rate, on the debt service rate, that would be a part of that. And so I expect those to be those resources to be deployed and those projects to be done. On the M&O, or maintenance and operational side of things, which is where all of our people get paid out of. So that budget will be delivered to us, and we will walk through that very carefully. But one of the things that we've asked our city manager and have a goal for our city manager is to deliver at a minimum, deliver a no new revenue rate budget. What does no new revenue look like? What does that look like with our operation? Here's the no new revenue. What does that look like in all of its facets with the budget? And then if that is not your proposed budget, what is your proposed budget, and what's the difference?
Sure.
What is the difference between the two? The council goes away every February and does a workshop, priority workshop,
strategic retreat,
our strategic retreat. And we talk about our strategic priorities and where we headed, what do we want to accomplish, and then we set milestones on how we get there. And in fact, city managers' goals
Right. Are based on
throughout
that
the year
information.
are based on that information. How do we achieve some of these priorities? How do we achieve some of these priorities and milestones along the way? And many of those milestones take dollars to accomplish, right? And so we go through there, and so his budget coming to us is based on those priorities. And I'll tell you, if me and council are listening to people and the priorities, and again, we're listening to 130,000 different people.
Sure.
And you have competing interest.
Yep.
You have people that want nothing but more parks. You have people that want no parks. You have people who want more police. You have people that want less police. You have people that want more fire. You have people that want less fire. I mean, you have all of those competing that are out there. And so we have to listen to the public and go through and then ultimately come together as a group and say, what do we
make a
want?
decision.
And make a decision, right? So it's a little bit like
No
herding.
small feat.
It's a little bit like herding cats, but at the end of the day, we come to a conclusion, and that's where our budget goes. And so we'll be entering that budget season this next week. We'll have about a 3-hour budget workshop where the budget will be rolled out on August the 12th. It is during the day. I'm sorry for that, but it's
It will be live streamed.
it's
it'll
live
be
streamed.
broadcast
It's
and
live
recorded.
streamed as well as you'll be able to see it after on our YouTube channel. And so what's good about that is you'll be able to see the entire process laid out, the entire budget laid out. We'll systematically lay out the budget so we'll understand each and every component of the budget. We'll have questions from council. There's a lot to digest when we
Yep.
go through this process. And I've asked council just take the time to go through each and every component of it, understand it, ask
try
your
to do the whole thing at
questions.
once.
Yeah, ask your questions. Yeah, certainly don't try to sit down and go through it all at once. It's pretty difficult. And I believe the gentleman at the rec center also asked, are there any big new developments happening
yeah,
in the area, both
yeah.
residential and commercial? And so, actually, residentially, we've had a development on the south side of our city, down off of County Road 100, far south, called Massey Oaks. It's been going on for quite some time, but with COVID and a few things like that, it really didn't get started until well after COVID. So it kind of got held up because of that. So there's about 1,000 acres down there. It's the last big piece. There's probably 400 or so acres, maybe almost 500 acres that's been rezoned and zoned for that master planned area down there that's in active development. In fact, we had a public hearing on one of those places this last Monday night.
Yep.
Not this past Monday night a week ago,
Yep.
last council meeting. And so actively working down there. Most of that is in Alvin ISD. And so we'll see that come to fruition over the coming probably 8 years, 10 years or something like that as we move
Yeah.
forward. Commercially, we continue to see commercial building permits coming up. We're seeing industrial permits out in the lower Kirby area come up. In fact, we've got about 1.5 million square feet of warehouse industrial space in some form of development right now. We have some that we just completed getting their CO, about 280 to 300,000 square feet just got completed. We've got the balance of that is in some form of planning, permitting, and about to start construction. So over the next, call it 3 years, you'll see that move through. I'm not at liberty to give all the details, but we have another prospect out in that area that if that comes to fruition would be an additional 1.8 million square feet.
Ooh, man, that's big.
And so those take time and
Sure, yep.
those types of stuff. We do have conversations off and on with various people. The 100 acres around Bass Pro Shop and all of that.
Right.
We get inquiries about that often, and we're very picky on what we want to see on that corner. It's the last major corner
Because we
in
want
our
to be a
city.
community of choice, right?
Absolutely.
The community of choice.
And we want people to choose to be here.
That's right.
So,
Okay, a couple other questions we had come in from online. What can I do if I'm having a problem with an animal control officer?
it's a great question. So if it's, I always tell people reach out to me, and
Right.
we'll certainly
Yeah.
direct it.
Yeah.
That's probably the best thing to do. You can always, like I said, you can always send me an email. If it's the department itself operates underneath the police department.
Right.
So if you actually have a complaint, there is if you go to the Pearland Police Department's website,
Right.
there is actually somewhere on the website where you can
There-
get the complaint information
There
and
is
follow through with it.
there is a customer feedback, an employee feedback form on the website as well. It's General City. I believe it goes to HR.
Right.
and-
But specifically to the police department, you can also go
That's right,
there.
that's right.
And there's multiple forms. You can email, you can do it in person, and I think there's a form online.
Yep.
There's different ways you can do that. We take each and every one of these types of things seriously. We want our employees to be professional and courteous. We want our be proficient in doing
Yep.
their job. So if you've got a question or an issue, you have those avenues. You always have an avenue to bring that to me.
Yep.
Because it's it would maybe ultimately be an HR
issue.
situation.
Yeah.
I will remove myself from that
Sure.
and move it to HR and the proper authorities within the city, but we'll certainly get on it.
Yep. Okay, so the next one is why is there no sidewalk on 1128 from Magnolia to the school? Gosh, that's a great.
So I know where they're talking about. So you're talking about right there. There's a vacant piece of property. So I'll tell you. Over the years, the policy of the city was we would put in sidewalks as development occurred. So we don't put it in; the developers do. It's part of the development package, and so that's why you can go through the city and you might see
Pockets.
a strip of sidewalk and then vacant on both sides, and there's nothing there. Okay, so the policy of the city was development will put in the sidewalks. Same thing here. School district put in sidewalks when they built. That empty corner is empty, so there's no sidewalk. We did pass a bond program last May for sidewalks and streets. We have approved about $15 million for sidewalks, and that is to address gaps like this, and as well as repair and rebuild of sidewalks that are 20, 30, 40 years old that need to be repaired. So it's one that we can take a note of and see.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this fall that program will get up and running, and we'll start seeing some of the gaps in our sidewalks filled.
Yep. Okay, so John Jackson asks, does the city have any long-range plans to have an ordinance drafted and put in place to regulate where trees can be planted? Planting trees under power lines seems to be a serious problem.
Yeah, it's a great question. And do we have one? No. Do we? Should we be looking at that? The answer is absolutely. It then comes into, I think it's what type of trees and where they are planted, and it goes back to CenterPoint continuing to put in overhead power, for example, down Broadway or down 35. And if we can get some of those major transmission lines to go under and those types of things, it would help alleviate some of this. Where it gets difficult is in the backyard of a house.
Right.
And you've got a overhead power line on the backside, and that is, at the end of the day, that homeowner wants to put a tree up in their backyard. In fact, CenterPoint had lots of problems with trees that were nowhere near the back easements of houses, but they were 40 and 50 foot tall trees that were over closer to the house falling into the easement.
Right.
And so I'm not sure how we completely regulate that.
Yeah.
But certainly in landscaping and those types of things, we need to do a better job of what types of trees,
Sure.
what types of plants.
Yep.
So also when you're driving down the boulevards and you see the overhead power, those low those low lines are not electric.
Power. Yeah. They're data.
Those are phone
or data.
or
Yeah.
data or something. The real tall ones are the electrical. Now, having said that, we still need to make sure that we have lower, like crepe myrtles and things of that nature that only get so tall, not big oak trees that are getting 50 foot tall.
Right. Yep.
Good comment, and that's the one we'll take back.
Yep. But fun fact: if you grow crepe myrtle right, man, they get huge.
They can.
You can if you don't chop them off every year. And another completely useless fact: do you know why people trim the tops of them every year like that? To give landscapers something to do in the wintertime. I kid you not. That was how that whole thing started.
Well, you're a landscaper's son.
I know.
You would
I
know.
should know these things. Okay, so next question. It said there was a large development for public access along Old Alvin Knapp, but there's no way for those in Twin Woods to cross safely. Let's see. Twin Woods.
Large development. Twin Creek Woods is
Twin-
Old Alvin and Knapp.
Oh, yeah.
And large development.
Large development for public access along Old Alvin Knapp.
So there's a footbridge that comes across the, I'm having a hard time understanding that because there's a
Yeah.
footbridge that comes from Knapp across, and there's a sidewalk completely in front of Cross Point Church,
Um,
and then goes all the way down to the school.
yeah, that's right here.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
the-
y'all can't see what we're looking at here. We're looking at a map so we can get
Turn the
oriented.
aerial on.
Yep. Let's see. This is one of those times I wish Eric Hammond was here because he's a map
So I
wizard.
think this would be a gap
Yeah.
we're talking about right here. I do know there's a sidewalk or something here.
Being put in.
Scroll up. And then here.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I
See?
see.
That
I
would
see.
be a
There's
gap.
no way to cross. Yeah. So that'd be another sidewalk question. We'll take that to our right-of-way and capital projects team and see if we can get an answer on that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Got it?
No, neighborhood across.
Yeah, got it.
Crosspoint. Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for bearing with us
Yes,
when you
sorry,
do your
sometimes-
description. We had to dive into it and figure
We
it
like
out.
to try to be as knowledgeable as possible, but sometimes it requires a map to pull it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so other questions we've gotten.
Okay.
Why are we putting up a massive apartment complex on Bailey Road? Does our city really need a huge complex like this one? And are these luxury apartments?
Well, there's not one on
Three-part.
Bailey. There's not one on Bailey.
It's gotta be Magnolia, right?
So I'm assuming they're talking about Magnolia.
Right at the bend where it's on one side?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
right
yeah.
there at 1128 and Magnolia. Does the city really need a huge complex like this one? Well, actually, the market is saying that a certain amount of multifamily is warranted and needed in our city. One of the things that we have continued to see in our community is that single-family housing
Yep.
is pricing people out. Just the sheer price of homes is pushing up to where people can't, live here. So these and these are not. I don't know if they would be considered luxury apartments. I know that they're considered market rate, which are not necessarily super cheap. The vast majority of these apartments are going to be 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom. We specifically, when we look at these types of things, we look at these kind of a mid-rise look and feel to the apartments. We do not allow subsidies on a new build like this, so no Section 8 or no tax credit type of thing for a new build apartment. I get that question a lot. Well, that's just going to turn into, it's just going to be Section 8.
Right.
Section 8, that has to come to council for approval.
Sure.
And so none of those are. But I will tell you the rents here are a market rent, meaning there is no subsidy from the federal government, there's no subsidy from the state or things of that nature. We get asked about these things they'll hurt the school district, they'll overrun our school district. When the reality is, if you keep the mix of apartments to 1 and 2 bedrooms, then you don't have a ton of kids to educate
Right.
as a result of it. And so when we look at this, we look at their mix, and their mix is generally, 45 or so percent 1 bedroom, 45 or so percent 2 bedroom, and then the balance will be 3 bedroom. And I think this one's very much the case like that. So very minimal on the larger sizes.
Yep.
But I will tell you, a 2 bedroom in this complex is going to be upwards of $2,000 a month. So that's certainly not cheap.
Right.
That's
And the
not.
value of that property on the tax rolls.
Will be about $65 million. So what that is going to do is it'll supplement what our homeowners are paying for property taxes and those types of things, as well as most of your apartments. In fact, you can pull up our top 10 taxpayers in the city. 7 of those are multifamily complexes.
Yep.
Top 10 taxpayers in the city, 7 of those are multifamily. And so at the same time, most multifamilies have a 6-inch water meter. As such, they pay the highest rates that are out there, which actually
Complex, not the
complex.
Yep.
The complex does, because it's all put into their
Right.
ultimate bill. And so they actually help subsidize the single family on their water rates.
Another question just came in from Christina. If we're talking sidewalks, excuse me, can we please put in a crosswalk wheelchair ramp at Orange and Schindler, the sidewalk that's used by a lot of people
Orange
on
and Slider.
Orange? I'm sorry?
Slider.
Slider. On Orange between Old Alvin and Orange through Creekside has no connection point to cross for bikes and stuff heading to
Okay.
CJ Harris.
Yeah,
So
Orange
we'll make a
Slider.
note. Thank
yeah,
you for
send
that,
me
Christina.
that note. We'll make sure that's on the list. Thank you.
Next one. My driveway is sinking right next to a city manhole cover that, and the apron is cracked due to a void. Both are likely caused by infrastructure problems downhole from the manhole
Manhole
cover. Is this something the city can investigate and cover repairs for? I already lifted my driveway once, and it started sinking again in about a year.
Yeah, we need to be looking underneath and seeing what's going on. That's something that our public works and our both water and wastewater, as well as our right-of-way folks, can take a look at, investigate, see what's happening, number one, and then see where we go from there.
So,
plan a course of action.
And I don't remember who submitted this question, but if you go to Connect, there's an app on the Apple Marketplace and the I'm sorry, in the iTunes, the App Store, and as well as the Google Play Store, called Connect to Pearland, CONNECT, the number 2, Pearland, and you can submit things that you believe are public infrastructure or any sorts of problems, animal control, code enforcement, fire marshal office, different things like that. You can submit those tickets there, and they'll go directly to Public Works, and they'll open a ticket and start to investigate it that way. Okay, next one. The water bills are still not itemized. All we see is the balance and the date due. The detailed information on the new portal is good, but a basic one-page statement would be helpful. Is IT still working on this?
Yeah, that, as I understand, they're still working with our vendor on that to come up with the right fit.
Okay, great. Let's see. This one I'm not 100% sure about. It says, trees still in alleyway in Old Town Site North, Austin.
So they're talking about on North Austin.
North Austin, yeah. They were cut down 3 months ago. Notified city. She looked in computer and said they're aware that the contractor did not complete the job, asking when these trees will be removed.
Yeah, we'll just send that note to Public Works, and we'll have them take a look at it and get in there.
So we'll have Public Works look at that. I understand the speed limit on McCard Road has been changed. When does that take effect?
It's my understanding they're waiting on the new signs. They've been ordered, and as soon as they're in, then we'll be effective.
So that's been passed by council.
Been passed, yeah. It was passed by council about 6 weeks ago.
Yep. But then the signs have to be ordered and installed before that really becomes effective, I guess.
Right. I mean, technically it's effective, but it needs to be posted.
But we wouldn't recommend speeding.
It needs to be posted.
Needs
to be
posted.
posted.
Do the posted speed limit until the new signs are up.
Still needs to be posted.
Okay. A question from Instagram we got when we were in the promotional portion of this.
Okay.
Why wasn't information about cooling centers, et cetera, distributed before Beryl? How do you get that information if you don't social media or power internet cell service? That type of information should be emailed out before storms and then posted around town in like grocery stores, gas stations, etc.
It's a great question, and it's one to note, especially since we're in the middle of storm season. If we have another one, how do we message that prior to a storm? Generally speaking, prior to the storm, our focus is on preparation and being ready and making sure that the city is ready to move forward in the event that we have a major storm. Obviously, in the middle of it, we're trying to get and do that, and then it's recovery. There's safety and security, which is paramount immediately after, and then we're starting to look at recovery, which cooling centers and those types of things come to play. We do have, so generally speaking, I will say, if the rec center is accessible, rec center and power is up, then the rec center is probably going to be a cooling center. But here's the problem: unless if our backup generator fails, which again, we test them, we do all these things, but if it fails, it's not going to be a backup. It's not going to be a place for a cooling center. So a lot of it, we have to assess the damage and assess where we are as a city before we can actually designate where something's going to be as a cooling center. Generally speaking, we can say X places can be cooling centers, but until we know for sure that the building is ready, what if we set something up as a building center or as a cooling center and a tornado comes through as a part of a hurricane, rips the roof off? Well, clearly that's not going to be. So we want to make sure that we have, and again, that's a little bit extreme, and you're right, not everyone has social media, but we do have text alerts. You want to
so we have if you text PLTX alerts to 888-777, you'll get all of our alerts that way. If you go to pearlandtx.gov/alerts, you can sign up for more comprehensive alerts, including phone call notifications, so for landlines and cell phones. But you can do cell phone, landline, email, We haven't gotten carrier pigeons yet, but we're talking about it. Bad joke. I'm sorry.
And I would like to find a way that we can utilize some robocalls and those types of things.
And we do.
We do have a subset within our city that don't have necessarily smartphones or social media, but they do still have landlines.
Yep.
And so we need to make sure that we are contacting them and giving them information in the midst of an event as well.
So, as you know, like I mentioned before, we follow the FEMA Incident Command System structure of emergency management. And on the public information side, the mantra for public information officers is the right information to the right people at the right time so that they can make the right choice.
Right.
And going back to what the mayor said, you know, before an emergency, we're focused on making sure people are thinking about being prepared and making sure they have accurate information with that. During, we're focused on life safety. After, we're focused on the recovery piece, and the cooling centers come into that. But to the mayor's point, if we put the information out beforehand and people can't go there, then we've potentially put people in harm's way, or at the very least, we've eroded some trust or caused confusion, which we never want to do. So our goal is always crystal clear communication that you as residents and visitors can act against and act against in a way to improve your life, not make it worse. Next question on the Instas. Are there any laws or regulations that are unique to our city that often result in violations or fines that you wish more people knew about?
You know, I don't know that there's anything super unique to our city that,
Yeah.
you know, in this particular case, but I'm going to use this question as an opportunity to explain a couple of things. For example, fireworks. We outlaw fireworks in the city. You can't sell fireworks.
Sure.
Technically, you're not supposed to fire them off, even though we know July 4th and others, we have a lot of fireworks in and around town that go off. We do have our fire marshal's office and police and everything else that do respond to calls, but they're not going to be able to respond to every call in that evening. So, but I will say this, you have seen over the last several years where fireworks stands have showed up right next to the city limits.
Right.
And that has been a change at state law. Used to, they couldn't sell fireworks within 5,000 feet of the city limits. State law changed where they can go right up, and we can't enforce that up against our city limits. One of those was in the Walmart parking lot out on the west end of town right there off 288. That Walmart itself is in Mud 6. It's outside the city limits, so they could technically have that there by right. There's another place right there on 1128 and Magnolia. It's a little carve out right there that's outside the city limits, and I've seen a stand literally right there.
And you can, we get a lot of comments about that. People take a picture and, you know, how is this allowed in city limits? And if you want, I'm not saying you have to do this, we're happy to have those pictures and comments. We'll answer the questions. But we do have an interactive map that shows what's in city limits, what's out of city limits. It actually has a lot of layers on it. So maps.pearlandtx.gov, I could spend days there. I know it's nerdy, but there's a lot of good information there. Let's see, another Facebook question. When are they going to fix veterans between Magnolia and Bailey? You can only patch it so many times.
And we answered this last month as well. I believe this is actually in a work program with Brazoria County for this upcoming fiscal year. So I would hope sometime this next summer we can get to that with the county and get that repaired, replaced, not just patching it up. But it's going to be the same answer next month if it shows back up.
And we'll keep answering it. We like answering questions.
Yeah.
Last one that we have from the comments earlier. Why did y'all approve the 4-story, 400-family apartment complex right behind the town center? Our subdivision, Southgate, did not want it built behind us. Now my backyard view will be town center and apartments and who knows what else. Why do you not respect the people who live here?
I respect each and every person that lives here. At the same time, I also respect a property owner's right to develop their property. Just like I respect each individual property owner and residential property owner to do certain things on their property. And so there comes a balance between all of that. Okay, we want a good, sound town center that is viable, that is market viable, that is in good working order, if you will. At the same time, we want good, safe neighborhoods. The patch that they're talking about on the back side back there, I was on council when the town center was approved and built. We kept it as a potential venue for entertainment, like a large indoor arena or something of that nature. And the marketplace just never materialized.
Right.
I'm also a big believer as a conservative that markets will always work its way out.
Sure.
Okay.
Because if the
And-
market, if the free market, if you know
Right.
doesn't support it, then
Right. And so it's got to be a free market, approach with some controls and variables on it,
Right.
right? And so that's where zoning comes in. Zoning itself, City of Houston has zero zoning,
right.
okay?
Right.
City of Alvin, south of us, no zoning. And so other cities around us have zoning. And so zoning rules, zoning regulations, there's a fine line between what is a property right of a property owner
Yep.
and what's the right of those beside them.
Right.
Okay, it's just like
And
between
what's appropriate for the community.
and what's
right?
appropriate. It's just like two competing households next to each other.
Sure.
One has a shed and the other one doesn't. The other one doesn't like the shed.
Yep.
And those boundaries get the two neighbors sometimes can come at odds over things like that.
Yep.
So it's very difficult. This one, very, very difficult looking at it. But at the same time, an appropriate use, the distance away. I would tell you, we don't have the crime and the things that they're talking about here at really any of our apartment complexes across town. Doesn't mean that we don't have incidents there.
Right,
we have
right,
incidences in single family neighborhoods.
Yeah.
In fact, we have undesirable things happening in single family neighborhoods
Right.
each and every day.
Yeah.
From a crime standpoint, that I don't want those there either.
Right.
Okay, but at the same time, these are heavily debated, heavily talked over, and looked at, and at the same time, they have a right to develop a piece of their property.
Right. That hasn't been able to be
Right.
developed.
Right.
I mean, based on what they originally intended it for.
Yeah, and at the same time, it's far enough away from that neighborhood that from a sight and a visual, it's not right over the fence. It's not right on top of them.
Yep.
We also required the town center and that owner to do more vegetative screening, trees,
Veg, as we like to say
veg,
now, yeah.
more trees, more things of that nature. That from a sightline standpoint, from those neighbors won't be seeing it. So I think over time you will see that it won't grow into be what was mentioned here. And in fact, you have a 4-story apartment complex in the town center currently.
Already, right.
Has been there from day one. This will be really no different.
Sure.
We looked at the development itself and the layout of it, and made sure that the apartments itself are facing the town center. That what's facing the other direction is very limited and further away from them.
Yep.
From a design standpoint, taking their neighborhood into consideration, all those kind of things.
Sure.
And so we look at each and every one of those carefully, and not everything that comes through council, certainly not everything that comes through staff and even comes to council gets approved.
Right.
We deny things from time to time, more often than you think.
Well, and this is something we don't talk about, very directly or very frequently, but something that, you as a policy group, all the decision makers up on the dais, the leadership group that we have in the city manager's office, those that we have in community development, in planning and zoning, zoning board of adjustments, even the EDC board, mapping out a community with the vision of 25 to 50 years from now, right? Thinking about it in such long terms is such a challenging thing to do and to continually get right.
Yeah.
And it's hard to grasp, what that's going to look like. But fast forward 15 years and look back now, it'll it'll be, you know, a smart decision that was made.
Well, and these are all, they're not made in a vacuum.
Right,
And
right.
and are we going to make mistakes along the way?
Sure. We're human
We're humans.
beings. Yep.
I will tell you, we had a long workshop, not long, we had a workshop a couple weeks ago on a potential development off of McCard, you know, over by one of the schools over off of Old Alvin.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a lot of care and concern. And at the end of the day, we didn't care for the product. We didn't like it.
Yeah.
We wanted something more robust. We wanted something better.
Yeah.
And so that feedback, certainly the developer was there and that feedback was given.
Right. And those conversations in the moment, I mean, it's one thing when you watch them online, but come sit in a council meeting, man, some of those things get a little
I'll tell you, the town center itself, I mean, we had multiple developments come to us
Sure.
that were denied
Yeah.
prior to this,
Yeah.
all residential based. So, you know, and those are all out there for the public to see.
That's one thing that we can say for sure is everything we do is available for public information.
Right.
You know, I've never worked in an industry that's as transparent as local government. You can find anything and everything about all the work we do. It's pretty amazing.
And that's something I want to make sure that everything we do is transparent.
Absolutely.
And even if we have to tell on ourselves, if we
Right,
do something
right.
wrong, let's go out and
Yep.
hey, we made a mistake. That's hard.
Sure.
But it's necessary and it's important
That's
because
right.
you don't get that in other forms of government.
Right.
Here, this is the closest government to people.
Yep.
We go to church with people. We're in the Rotary with people. We're in
At the
different
grocery store,
grocery
yeah.
store. We're out and about in the community, and I mean, we are of and part of the community, and so we need to be as transparent and out there as possible. There are certain things that we can't disclose. There's economic development things that can't be, and there's employee issues that we can't talk about and those types of things. But generally speaking, we want to be as absolutely transparent as humanly possible. So
Yeah.
that's the reason why I do this.
Yep.
It's the reason why I come, and have this on a monthly basis. We've moved from quarterly out and about
More frequently?
to more frequent in the studio, direct access. And we really want, to have this kind of interaction. It's been a good interaction
Yeah.
today. In
That's
fact,
We
I
got
see
one
somebody-
final question. Yeah. So Luis said, is there a list of Pearland approved contractors? Do they only need to register and meet the contractor requirements?
Yeah, as I understand, they just need to register and meet the contractor requirements. One of the things that we don't want to be caught in is here's the guys you can go use,
Right.
because then all of a sudden we're recommending, and from a transparency standpoint, that's not a good thing.
Yep.
And if something goes bad, then it's back on us. We do want contractors, licensed and meet good contractor requirements. In the aftermath of a storm, there's going to be roof damage and things of that nature. Make sure that you have good, reputable
Yep.
roofers.
Yep.
Check their credentials out
Credentials
very
and
well.
references, Should be bonded,
and
insured, all
and
that
all
good
of that.
stuff.
Yeah, just bonded, insured, and the whole thing, and just make sure they're reputable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
great
great
questions.
questions. Yeah.
I think that pretty much covers it. I think that was a pretty good.
It was, and so
We
I'm just
talked
gonna.
a lot of the town.
Yeah, so I'm gonna. Yeah, we kind of talked all over town.
Yeah,
today.
we did.
Today, it was good. I'm going to end on this and just talk about today. This morning, we broke ground on a new wastewater treatment plant project.
Not just any wastewater
Not just any.
treatment plant.
Not just any. So, our Berry Rose plant and our Longwood plant. These are two plants. The Longwood plant is 60 years old. It has outlived its useful life, and it actually sits in the floodway. So the Clear Creek has moved, and the floodway and the floodplain has moved over the years. It's actually sitting in the floodway. So every time we have a major flooding event, we actually have effluent that
Affluent is poopy
untreated.
water. Yep.
untreated stuff that is down the creek. And so it's actually an EPA event when it happens, TCEQ.
And you'll know
everybody.
because we have to do a press release
Yeah.
about it when it reaches a certain volume,
And it's at 90% capacity. So
which is
that's
a problem in and of
a
itself.
problem in and of itself. Way too many problems. So we're actually going to collapse that plant, move it back, and move all of that to Berry Rose, which is over off of Pearland Parkway in Berry Rose.
Yep.
You can see it. And so we will be upgrading that plant and taking in this other plant. It'll take every bit of the next 3 years or so to build. We had that groundbreaking this morning. And so I say that to say that's what you will see as far as that construction is concerned, but also say that it's the single largest project that the city has undertaken.
Yeah.
It's a very large project. It's costly, but very necessary. Again, we need to be responsible with wastewater, and we're not very responsible right now downstream, and we need to fix that. We need to fix it as quickly as possible, and this process is going to allow us to do that.
And you say expensive, just to put this in terms, this is the most expensive project that we've ever done, roughly $250, $260 million.
All in.
All in, so close to, I mean, $250 million,
Right.
which we fully understand is a shocking number.
Yeah.
And, you know, projects like this that are this massive and this intricate, I mean, these are highly specialized facilities that we're building. And at the same time, you know, so we just approved phase one, and that was the groundbreaking was to kick off that. That alone was $61 million. $66 million, thank you. And the way that we do it, though, is with the maximum efficiency with the dollars that we're investing in it across the board. So we have a construction manager at risk contract that provides a guaranteed maximum price. So we know we're locked in once everything's said and done, and it allows the construction contractor to go out and do you know, the early works packages more cost efficiently, more effectively. The long lead time stuff they can buy now to save us in the long run. So there are a ton of moving parts to this, and it's a massive undertaking.
And I wanted to end with this because the project is important, and so many cities get caught up in projects this big. And a lot of times the elected officials will kick those cans down the road.
Right, because nobody wants.
Yeah,
I mean,
they will say, and they'll go, I
big pill to
don't want to
swallow.
be responsible for that type of a project or that large of a project, and not on my watch. I'm gonna, you know, and so they'll end up kicking them down the road. And I'm of the opinion I don't want to kick these types of things down the road.
Right.
It means digging in, doing it the best we possibly can with the resources that we have, looking to the future, and at the same time, I want to set up my kids and my grandkids, your kids and your grandkids for success. Right. I want to set them up to where they don't have to receive that can that's been kicked down the road and have to go do this, but instead go do it. Secondly, I also don't want to get a letter from the federal government that we're being fined.
Right.
Okay, because we've waited too long.
And then still have to do the project anyways.
And still have to do it. That is an irresponsible way to do it. And so I say that. More to come as that project unveils and does more and more. We've been talking about it for years. We've been talking about it in council in different capacities and different workshop settings over the last several years, and now it's here.
Now we're actually moving dirt.
And so you're going to see more and more and more about that over the days and months and years to come.
And we live streamed that today, this morning on our own channel. So go back and watch that. It's a great little, great little event. So we're real excited about that. And just another point of clarity that I don't think say this enough. That project is on the Pearland water side. So there's a lot of, it's easy to get tripped up between the two. So City of Pearland, operations and maintenance and debt service budget that we have, taxpayer-backed budgets that we will be talking about. Berry Rose, that $260 million project is on the water
wastewater side.
Wastewater side, the enterprise side. That's backed and funded by water rates and water bills. So everybody that has a Pearland water connection helps fund that through the water bills that they pay every month. And you'll see through the budgeting process we're about to go through that all of those things are calculated out. There are calculation sheets to
So I'll
build those
say
estimates.
our next talk of the town is
budget.
Going to be budget. I believe it's August. It's not the 28th for some reason. It's the 21st, I think.
Yeah. Maybe because of Labor Day? I don't know. I'm making this up now. I have no plans here. Do you know what the...
Nope, we're doing it the morning of the 28th at 9 a.m.
Doing it live.
That's it. And so the bulk of that will be going through budget.
Yeah, which, buckle your seatbelts because our budget's, man, it is exciting.
Yeah.
$100 and some odd million. I mean, it's an exciting time. I'm
Yeah,
looking
but it's the
forward to it.
business of the city. It's your money. It's your city, and we've got to go through and carefully. Like I said, we've got to listen to all these voices and come together and what's right for the majority and the
Yeah.
whole, and
Yeah.
and all those great things. And so I we'll end with this because I know it's 7:30 plus,
3, yeah.
and move on with our evening. But it's always a pleasure to come and do this here, do it live, come straight to you.
Yeah.
I want to be known to be accessible, be available. I may have to deliver a bad answer to you. In fact, I delivered one of those yesterday to somebody who reached out, and I said, I wish I had a better answer, but
Sure.
here's the truth.
Yeah.
But I will endeavor to always give you the truth and give you an accurate answer. Same thing with our staff, same thing with our council. It's important that we do that, that we engage and do these types of things. This isn't the only time I'll answer questions. Reach out.
Sure.
Like I said, I want to be accessible. In the course of getting power back and everything else, I haven't added up how many messengers I received, but
There's a lot.
it's quite a bit. But while it's work and while it's tiresome, it's worth it because there's a life, there's a family, there's an issue, there's a situation behind each and every one of those.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's part of this job and being here and going through it and being here for the city, and the residents that are here. Me and every single resident out here won't agree on every single topic.
Right, yeah.
It just won't. That's what this is all about. But one thing we can all agree on is we love this place. We love living here.
Absolutely.
We love investing our lives in here. And each and every one of us want to make Pearland the absolute best that it could possibly be so it can be the community of choice in the greater Houston area.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate it. We thank you all of you for joining us out there as Talk of the Town for the month of July. And
That's it.
I guess we'll see you again next month when we're talking budget.
That's it.
All right.
Thank
Y'all
you.
have a good night.